the one and only two. The one that's staying put to his proper place, and the one to his spot to the other one's face.
Pits and the bone of the world inhabits. And its walls aren't worth what a pig could spit. And it goes by the name of London. The top of the whole to the British food. The mock of the vermin, the road was loose and beautiful. But not for long.
Let's get started, shall we? I thrifted this vest, but in doing so I did realize that it needed some adjustments to it, some customizations, namely a collar, and pockets that were actually usable. Okay, so it is a pocket, means, so I need to rip out the pockets so they can actually be pockets. Around the neck. So it needs to be about 4 inches. So it goes up and down. Connects right here. So I'm going to make it connect at the seam. Then it's going to go out a little bit. So after much deliberation, I was able to determine the size I need the collar to be. And then all the way down. And it's going to connect to here instead of here. So we have this. I used a scrap of piece of paper to draw the general outline to use as a template for the collar from a velvet bed sheet. So I don't really want to talk about what this is past the fact that it's a bed sheet, but I do need some seam allowance. Maybe I should do it on this side. That seems like a better idea. Again, thrifted, so it wasn't an exact match, but it was close enough. And then simply seam rip the pockets because they were actually just sewn together. They were pockets, just not really. Seems like it's time to rip this. I will never stop making that joke. And it seems like you can't stop me. Once I had those two cut out, I'm also using interface, which again, never used before. Use dry iron only. Preheat iron to high or hot, yada yada yada, never heat area where fabric is to be applied by running over. I melded interfacing onto the pieces. This gave it a double strength as I wanted it to be as supportive as possible. Funnily enough, if I just did this, it would literally be half the work. Okay. Okay. We're done with one. Okay. The template I used allowed me to have 2 layers of interfacing. All right, the first one. Once it was heat pressed, I folded it in half, interface facing out, that's a weird sentence, and sewed it good sides together, leaving enough room to flip it right side out. and cut off any excess. And do the other one. I didn't like the bulbous look of the outside, so I sewed it flat, which kind of defeated the purpose of doing the original step, but oh well. And yes, I could have ironed it down so that the seams were completely ironed, but I did not, and here we are. For the portions of the collar and the vest that I couldn't get into my sewing machine because 2 layers of interfacing, 3 layers of velvet, and the line was a lot for my little needle and sewing machine. This is also a little bit messed up. I simply put a fabric glue on it and pushed a needle down into it, which again is fine as long as you know how to deal with it, and hopefully I do, to keep it as secure as possible when drying. Alright, then it was razor time. I got this from Spirit Halloween last year, but I did need to customize it to be more alike to the movie. This involved using epoxy sculpt and sculpting straight onto the handle. Unfortunately, I lost most of the footage for this, but I'll get you up close and personal to the footage I was able to find and talk you through it. I placed a long clay worm that was fairly thick onto the middle and pressed it down until it covered most of the side of the handle. Used water to smooth down the outer edges to make it so it was kind of one complete piece, and started shaping. Using an X-Acto knife to cut out portions and multiple tools to give me the shapes and indentations that I needed, while constantly referencing photos to keep it as accurate as possible. Then, once it was cured, I put a silver onto the other side of the handle, a few layers of that. For the detailing though, I did use a wash of black paint, very watered down, with a paintbrush to get into all the crevasses, all the nooks and crannies. and then wiped it away with a tissue. Then back in with a heavier amount of the black to quote-unquote deeper portions. And then with a disposable sponge, I added the same silver that I had used all over the other side on top. I did also coat this in resin to just really seal it all and finish it off. But it is wall time. I'm using some throwaway cardstock brown paper to make a makeshift wallpaper, as if I were in the actual barbershop that Sweeney Todd does his best work in. I figured out how thick I wanted each piece to be, and simply cut them out until I ran out of cardstock. I mapped out where all the pieces would go using painter's tape and a lot of danceable music. And continue with the painter's tape on the back of each cardstock piece to make it obviously temporary. It did fall down quite a bit, so this is going to be very, very temporary, but all I had to do is push the tape back on or add more tape to it. This isn't exact, but considering what I started with, the results were what I wanted. Onto the makeup. I put my hair up as I wasn't going to be putting on a wig for this look. I would be actually using my hair for this, which sounds weird, but I knew I would be messing around a lot with fake blood, which can stain blonde hair, which I have half of, and liquid latex. I did my brows as I normally would, but making them a little bit bushier than usual. How fitting. For my eyes, we're going to go dark, but still using a white base because red, and blending that out with the warmth of my finger. I used a transition shade, and now a medium tone purple, starting in my crease into the inner corner and the outer corner to create the start of my wing. Next, this is going to be why I put down the white base, a bright red that will eventually almost be black, as you can see by my other eye, but we're not there yet. I'm packing on quite a bit of red, leaving just the center white. And finally packing and blending out the crap out of a black. Once I had it blended, which took a long time, I added a kohl liner to my bottom waterline and and carried all the shadows down as well. And then it was contour time with a very deep taupe. I don't contour, but if I did, it would definitely not be this much, ever. We're going for a mostly dead look radiating from the inside out. Sweeney Todd is an artist and would never be caught dead, haha, accidentally cutting himself. But I wanted it to be a bit more visually interesting, so I added some faux cuts on my face with liquid latex, dubbing a few layers on with a disposable sponge once again, one after the other until it was quite thick, tapering off the edges slightly to blend it in better to make it actually look like it was one with my skin. Waiting for that to dry down and then using a small pair of scissors to oh so carefully cut the liquid latex in half, creating an open wound. With a packing brush and a medium coverage concealer that matched me-ish. I'm still not great at matching myself to foundation or concealer, but I do my best around the incision site. I'm blending that out with my finger. For the inside, I'm simply using a red water-activated paint. For the lips, to give them that dead chapped look, I'm using a darker than my concealer lipstick, dabbed it onto my lips and blended that out with my finger to disperse the color. Scrunched them up and added a red lipstick over top of that, so they looked almost like they were so chapped they bled. And then finally, the fake blood into the cuts for a wet look. I also want to add some blood onto this, just for fun. But I didn't want it to be on there permanently, so I didn't want to paint it. Let that dry down, I guess. Don't really know how to go about that sentence. I don't know if you guys can even see this. Yeah, okay. For a final touch, I went back in with that red water activated paint that I'd used before and a toothbrush with a lot of water on it to add a splatter effect. All of this. And now this. Don't even know why I did the contour, really. Oh, there, yeah. That's a lot of blood. I didn't mean for it to go up here, but here we are. And voila. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you next one. Bye guys. You ready guys?